on a positive note. And yeah, excited for the weekend.
Nice.
Very much so. Can I record as well right now?
Yes, please do so. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, you may start if you want.
Hello. I guess we can start the live recording already, and welcome whoever is going to be watching this in the future, in the present, or in the past. Is it possible? Time is irrelative. So today, as we promised, we're going to talk a little bit about the cryptocurrency in the long term, as the idea of holding value. This is something that we've touched upon multiple times. I do kind of want to have a little review as well of what we've spoken before, especially that we're sort of halfway, a little bit beyond the halfway of our workshops. And I was thinking maybe it would be nice to ask our participants if they've taken any steps since we've started. Because at the end of the day, we want people to learn and to take action rather than just to come around, see our beautiful faces, and then go and get on with their lives without acting. So today in our repertoire, we have the idea of long-term cryptocurrency, what to consider, the potential of growth, and yet again, a little review of all the difficult words. And I hope, Florian, that we can help our listeners to understand this a little bit more.
Yes, indeed. I think cryptocurrency, it is a broad subject, and it's good that we discuss for the short-term strategy, for the long-term strategy, to understand what is the difference between the price and the value, because many times we do not understand what is the difference between these two terms. And we'll discuss step by step about this subject, how you can become a wise person.
Yes, and you've also mentioned that there is some amazing news in terms of crypto, so I'm well excited for that. Maybe we can explore that later on. And yeah, let's see who shows up. I do believe there's going to be quite a few classic comers and maybe a few new ones. And when it comes to the things we've talked about before, I wanted to also maybe remind, and we can do that once people are back in the room, remind people when you say about the price and value, I would like to point out to them, to those who didn't read the Bitcoin standard, for example, or do not know what exactly means the value of gold, why gold became such an asset over the millennia. What does it mean, and I've taken some notes from our past meetings and also from the book, and I thought it might be good to review those 4 things that make for a good asset to keep the money value in the long run, because we know that right now we're doing it in the best possible moments, or all those webinars considering the crisis and the difficulty that people may have, especially in the countries that are not fighting the inflation the right way. I don't know if anyone does out there. They might be thinking about alternative ways of storing value rather than fiat currencies.
I think it's important to understand the difference between money and currency. What is the difference between these two terms, between money and currency? Between fiat money, between fiat currency, and between cryptocurrency and money and gold as well. What is the difference, and what basically to understand different kind of standards, and what is the difference as well between price and value, because we are not taught this at school, and because we are kept in the dark ages basically, and nobody have an interest to be able to teach you and to become a wise person. Because if you become a wise person, you become an independent person. So a wise person always knows what is the difference between price and value, and in this case understand what means cash flow, what means having good debt, what means having bad debt, and what means how you can work with different financial instruments. I think if you don't learn this, you'll always work for money.
Yes, and you know the interesting thing is I managed to convince my well there wasn't much convincing. I inspired my father to read the Bitcoin Standard, and we've had a discussion about it the other day, and it's really powerful to hear from your own father the idea of like, well, I've never been told this, you know, this is such a new thing, and I'm not surprised that I didn't get this knowledge from him if he never got told it from anyone else. And I bet there are quite a few people out there that think they know how it works, but they've never actually explored the other side. He said that the Keynes, you know, the Keynes ideas for economy is what he was taught, and it made sense to him. So he just continued with it, and now suddenly he's talking about this, and we're discussing this alternative view, and he's like, well, it feels like all of what I've been, you know, sort of continuing on with the business is wrong. Of course, it works, but maybe there is an alternative and a better way. And
I think you have an amazing father, and the fact that we have this kind of discussions, this is awesome. These are the kind of discussions that I would like to have with my sons and my daughters as well. I think I would love to meet also your father to see because I think he's a wise person and he's open-minded, and which is good. I would like to say welcome to Jakub and Tomek. Jakub and Tomek, you can unmute yourself and you can put yourself on the camera. Hi, Tomek.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Hey, Jakub, how are you? Nice to see you. How's your day, guys? You can unmute yourself. Don't worry. Now we have a discussion. We did not start it yet, so you can talk. Yeah. I don't hear you, Jakub. Jakub, I do not hear you.
Kuba, it's not working for you, the microphone.
Yeah, Kuba, yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's a nice day. Well, I was a bit ill last 2 days, so today I went to school for the first time for 3 days, and yeah, it was okay. Yeah, happy to be here again.
What happened with you? So what kind of maybe I can give you an idea
about the illness.
Yeah. Because I'm passionate about the traditional Chinese medicine, and before going to antibiotics, maybe you can try first with the different solutions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it wasn't anything too serious. Like I was just sniffing around and a bit of coughing around, and that's it. So yeah, it wasn't anything like hurting me anyway, etc. It was just a pure how
a
do you
bit
call
of
it?
A cold.
Yeah.
You know why it happened this to us many times, because we don't have enough vitamin C and vitamin D. So when we don't have enough taking of vitamin C, like citrics, like oranges, like lemons, if you don't have if you don't eat this kind of fruits, then you may be lacking vitamin C and vitamin D. If you don't expose yourself to sun to have also vitamin D, because the vitamin D also helps with your immune system. So I think it was to take some immunomodulatories kind of substances. For example, I do not know if you heard about aloe vera, like that kind of plant that is like a cactus, like that kind of leaf.
Yeah.
That one, if you smash it, basically, if you have in house, if you smash it a leaf and then put it in your tea, this can help you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, mine and Wojtek's mom is a pharmacist, so we have a lot of like vitamins and stuff, and that's yeah. Through the summer, I didn't really manage to take them like every day and stuff because of many trips and stuff, and I kind of got unused to this. But yeah, I'm coming back to that rhythm when you like take zinc. How is zinc?
Zinc. Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
And vitamin D and vitamin B, because I also B12, because I also don't eat meat, so it's also the imported one.
Well done. Welcome, Hannah. You can unmute yourself. How are you today?
Hi, I'm here with Michał as well, but he's painting because we are painting today.
Amazing, amazing. By the way, he should make some NFTs after he finish his work and put it on sale after that. And maybe we can do something for him to help him to promote.
Yeah, I think he has some questions, but like at the end of the lecture, regarding something else. So.
Awesome. I'm happy for his question. Tell him to prepare the questions and I'll answer. Jakub, how are you? Yeah, you can say some words because I didn't have time to. Now it's your turn to say how are you? Yeah.
We still cannot hear you.
We still cannot hear you. Anyway, in the meantime that you sort it out, Jakub, then you can speak, Hannah. So how was your week? How is the new place?
Thank you. We're good. Our place is coming to together because we found some pieces on like flea markets and we are doing something ourselves. And I'm like 2 weeks in school already, so that is also great because it's really interesting. Like my degree turned out really interesting, even more than I thought. So we're really enjoying Copenhagen.
What you study there?
Social data science.
Oh, I think this is a very actual subject because more and more we have quadrillions of data and of gigabytes, and then we need to have people like you that are able to sort it out with the amount of data that we have these days, and even more data that is coming with the AI and how you can create like different kind of structure. I think this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
And I guess Kuba will stay with a chat today, an old school way.
Yeah.
Send us a letter. That's okay.
No, okay,
right.
so welcome everyone. We can start because otherwise it's late and our audience would like to know why we are here. And please put yourself on mute and also on invisible mode to become invisible persons. And then we get back with the questions. Thank you. Let's start here.
Yes, of course. Welcome everyone. So this marks our start of a 6th or 7th if we add the bonus webinar. We've been doing this for a while. Thank you very much for sticking with us, especially those who has been here for a while. So today, as we promised, we're going to consider cryptocurrency once more. We decided with Florent that we're also going to review some of the terms and ideas that we've talked with you earlier, just to make it stick, because some things might still be a bit sort of shady in our brains. And we would like to present to you this idea of storing value in the cryptocurrency and how that can be obtained. So before we even start with crypto, I think it's worth to review with you, Florent, what were the 4 things that made something a good store of value? Why, for example, gold became this way of storing value over time, and what are the 4 ingredients that make something worthwhile in this regard?
Well, from my point of view, I think what makes a store of value a good store of value is the fact that this kind of store of value should be divisible, basically on small units that can become actually real money, and that you have an intrinsic value. So basically, people who have value this thing because they have because the asset have an internal value as well, and as well the adoption rate is quite large. So basically, everyone knows about what is gold. Everyone knows about what is Bitcoin, and then the 4th thing it will be the fact that you have a marketplace where you can trade it. So basically, where you can where people can actually it is an asset that is easy to understand. And here also you can add some other things, but what I want to suggest is the fact that I think why we have now a passage between gold standard and the Bitcoin standard. So I think more and more people will understand that people wants to have something that is unique, something that is limited in quantity. And because, for example, Bitcoin have a limited quantity because it's programmed, in this case, can be a good store of value. This is why, because it is expensive to produce, it requires a lot of electricity, and people value so much. And the Bitcoin can become like an interbanking payment system, where the security is so high that nobody would like to mess with the Bitcoin network because you have too much value in the system. So I think more and more the Bitcoin network will serve the banking system, the international banking system. And because it's open and you have a public ledger and you have proof of work and you have yes, is not the most green asset, but because of the fact that you spend so much electricity to produce a Bitcoin, that's why it's valuable, because you cannot afford to sell it for less than the amount, at least the cost, to recover the cost of what you produce it. And so that's why here is the value of the network. And also as well, to mine gold, you also need to spend quite a big amount of money to be able to do mining in gold. That's why also gold is a store of value. And now you can have both. You can have both of the two worlds. If you go in the classical way, you can have a Bitcoin. You can have gold, and if you go the most modern way, you can go with the Bitcoin. But the design of the Bitcoin and other currency is not so much for storing value; is more for making transactions. And but Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. Why? Because it's expensive to produce, and because it have a limited quantity, and you cannot produce more than 21 million Bitcoins approximately. And so it is important to understand that what is limited, what is hard to produce, is also valuable for people. And I would like to add, what is the difference between the price and value? So you need to calculate when you think about the price. For example, a price, it's, if you look at the fiat currency like dollars, the price is what you pay at that moment. But maybe in order to calculate the value of a certain thing, you need to compare with other assets. For example, if 1 gram of gold, or how much it is in dollars, but then with the same gram of gold, what you can buy in products, in assets, maybe how many grams or how many kilograms of gold you need to pay for a house, like an example. And then this means actually to understand the value of what you have. So it's not the price. You can pay for a product that is more expensive, but you need to understand what is the value. So, and is this asset generating cash flow? So basically, you need to understand different kinds of store of value. Value that is generating cash flow, and value and value that is a inflation hedge.
Okay, so quite a few things here, guys. So I'll do a little review, and then we'll go into the storing of storing or creating value. Thank you very much, Florin. If anything, remember, guys, as we've spoken, when it comes to any asset that is good for storing value, it's something that is difficult to obtain. For example, Bitcoin being hard to produce. It has a limited amount, ideally, or it's very difficult to obtain, so the amount is still quite limited. You know, good luck looking for gold all over the world right now to become a millionaire. It might take you some time, and that time is value. The indestructible part of it, which is why what Florin said right now is very important. even though cryptocurrencies might not seem like a store of value at the beginning, because maybe someone skillful could come and hack the system, change the algorithm, or turn off the two computers that are mining the coin. Once it reaches a certain level, for example, like Bitcoin right now, when the adoption rate is so high that one would have to turn off probably all the servers in the world to make it disappear, and then still some people would keep them on their drives and that way store them for later, it becomes almost impossible to destroy. And the final part is that it's so hard to cheat, so hard to fake, which is what Florian mentioned by saying that Bitcoin might be the next solution for payments, interconnection of banks, because all the network stores all the information for every of those transactions, which is a very, very big thing if you think about the transparency. You cannot cheat in a game if everyone knows everyone else's cards. It's impossible, and it would take you too much of effort, and at this point probably an impossible amount of energy to cheat that code into something else. And something here that I wanted to mention, I've been talking with my father about this the other day, and he asked a very good question. Well, wouldn't it be possible for people to create a code and change the algorithm? And wouldn't that just make them steal some Bitcoin or create a fake one? And that is
impossible. It's impossible to do this because everything, you have a chain, so you cannot go. You have a chain that is connected, so you can the birth of every Bitcoin. It's like it's a unique. So basically, and in a block. Basically, in a block that is on the chain, because whenever you discover a block, you are rewarded some Bitcoins. Yeah, now I need to see exactly the rate, but you are rewarded a certain quantity of Bitcoin because you discover the answer to the question. But the calculating power is so high, and then your block that you created because you find the solution and everyone accepted your solution, and then other people connect to your block. So everything is connected. It's a blockchain. That's why it's named blockchain. So you cannot undo blocks because you need to repeat the processes so many times, and you need to go in the whole network. You cannot do this. You can create a fork. But it's not the same network.
Yes, and even more so, if you think about it, even if everyone would suddenly agree, okay, we're gonna cheat Bitcoin and we're all gonna introduce this new code or whatever, it would completely destroy the value of Bitcoin, because that way, the moment the chain is compromised, it is no longer valuable. That's the ultimate value that this asset provides. It's like the moment you can create gold of anything, then gold probably loses value because suddenly it becomes just another aluminium that you can get out of anything. So
in fact, these are very wise words what you just said. Imagine that soon, once we become a space, we are a space species,
civilization.
But when we discover maybe some gold asteroid, and that is a huge amount of quantity, imagine that kind of supply, what is happening on the market. But if you have like different quantity with a Bitcoin, you have a limited amount. And as well, is important because we as human persons, we give value to stuff. And what is valuable for us? So basically, what it is very difficult to obtain. The most difficult to obtain now is Bitcoin, because you need to spend so much energy, and you need to basically it will become the intercommunication between the banks. That's why the transactions are so slow, because the network is slow. But because you have a security at the highest level, and the Bitcoin network is not done to make transactions on a regular basis. The Bitcoin is becoming a store of value because of the security that is represented. and because of the adoption rate of people, and why 50% to 60% of the market capitalization of the whole crypto market is in Bitcoin.
Okay, so that's a big part of what we wanted to talk with you guys here. And Florian touched upon it a little bit, that right now we're getting to the stage that Bitcoin might or already is becoming the new way of storing value that is much easier as well. Because if you think about it, if you'd like to store a lot of gold, you probably need a big space and a safe space. And suddenly there's a lot of different additional problems showing up, because as we talked earlier about the freedom of money, and we're going to touch upon it next week or the week after, we'll see, is the idea that, you know, if you store something in a bank and the bank suddenly decides that on Tuesdays they're no longer working, then is that money really yours? Are you able to use your money if it's a money that depends on someone else opening the safe for you? And that is when also this unique opportunity for us to be participating in the crypto world can make us a little bit more independent. It's like keeping money in a sock, but the difference is this money is not something that someone can simply just print whenever they decide to do so. And that's where I wanted to touch on what Florian said about the price and value. I think this is really powerful what you said about the dollars, and it made me think about the idea, what can I get for a kilogram of gold versus what can I get for the equivalent of the kilogram of gold in dollars. And I guess the biggest trick here is, considering the inflation, guys, and considering the fact that dollars are dependent on government versus, for example, versus gold, which is dependent only on someone digging more of it, or on Bitcoin, which is actually limited according to the initial algorithm, it is very, very unlikely that the same amount of money that you're getting for your gold today will be there equivalent in the upcoming months, weeks, years. Whereas for gold,
yeah, sorry. Yes, and what I would like to add, sorry for interrupting you, Wojtek. I would like to add the fact that the government does not have so much like of a business experience, so they are technocrats, and many times they decide, if they decide to print more fiat money, they print more, but this being devaluating the money, basically actually between stealing actually from your pocket. Because whenever you start deciding to save or to put on side, like to be a store of value, if you decide that you want to be a store of, you want a certain currency, a certain fiat currency, dollars, pound, euro, and you want to store value in that currency, you are really making a very bad decision. You know why? Because printing more currency of the same amount without you knowing how much currency it will be printed, you basically with the same dollar, maybe with the same euro, you don't buy the same amount of stuff that you bought maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You need to look at the value that you can take, that you can buy, not at the price.
And I guess it might be interesting here and important to point out to you guys that if you do not feel like the first step to try it, what we're talking here about is to go straight into cryptocurrency or gold, then maybe consider first and look around which currencies in the fiat currencies can you relate to that are more stable than the ones you know. And this is and always will be true that different countries tackle the challenges differently. And there are many opportunities because there are as many countries, as many currencies out there. And you can see that relationship between value and price on a daily basis, either in your pocket or in the pocket of someone abroad. You just make a phone call to a friend, ask them how did that value of milk go up or down or in the past weeks, and you can tell whether or not the currency there is being more or less stable than yours. But yet again, still, this is a currency that is dependent on someone else's decision to print, and that is a tricky subject. It's like, as I mentioned earlier, I believe, and we've talked last week, it's like being at a party and everyone has 1 apple and suddenly someone shows up with 20 apples. Well, your apple is no longer as valuable as it was. So like right now, I wanted to explore, Florian, with you this fact that we've seen, and I believe that many of us who are listening have seen this situation that there was a time when Elon Musk sort of sold a bunch of Bitcoin, and suddenly the value of it went crashing down. Many people got upset. They got out with a lot of loss. And yet again, this sort of prophecy of, oh my God, cryptocurrencies are just making us poorer and poorer, it showed up. And I wanted to remind our listeners through your wisdom, what can we do in those moments, and why should we not care about whether or not the price will go up on down on a daily basis, because we've initially decided that this is the money that we're not going to be crying about, and we're playing the long game. How does that work? Why are we playing the long game?
Well, firstly, we need to understand why we are doing this. So why we are in the crypto space, for example, why we have fear, why we have greed, because the birth of the cryptocurrency and the birth of the blockchain, it was just to understand the fact that not just one person can influence the whole general. Yes, you have a lot of volatility in the market, and you have quite a high risk in the crypto space. But on the long term, it's a win sector. You know why? Because no one person can affect one network. So difference between fiat currency that is created if someone put a pen and sign, like an example, on the Federal Reserve when they decide to create more money, they create out of the thin air without having any pegged asset like gold. So before that, in 1979, it was a gold 79 or 69, when Nixon decided that $1 is not anymore transferable in gold. From that moment, it's become just a promise. From that moment, we don't have any more money. We have just currencies. And the difference between a currency and actual money is the fact that the currency is based on the people's trust. And we buy thin air. We work for thin air, which are the money which are the currencies that we put in our pockets, and we don't realize that rich people do not work for money, like Robert Kiyosaki said. Rich people work for assets. We should start thinking how we can become wiser, how we can acquire assets with the paper money that the government is printing.
And I think it's a really important, guys, to also mention, as we talked again and again, that in those moments when it might seem like you've placed some money on the side for the cryptocurrency, and you thought it's gonna skyrocket, and then it went down. Well, first of all, you should not place any money into anything if you are not willing to lose it. But remember that as long as you're not placing it on any bets, as long as you're placing it just in the asset itself, you can always weather it out. Just wait and see. And more likely than not, what goes down must go up at some point. So this is where us as the youth of this world still, and the younger the better, really, we have the chance of trying it out, experimenting, seeing how it goes, and even throughout the difficult time as we are experiencing right now, taking advantage of it. And I think there is no better time to start considering this idea of working for assets rather than working for money, and creating value over time and keeping the value over time rather than storing your money in a stock. In the currency that is devaluating, because we're all experiencing it worldwide, that the inflation rates are over the roof. I don't know how it is out there for you. I can only imagine, but from what I've heard so far, it's not going too good. And if the longer you wait with deciding to keep it to change it into a gold or into something more stable, the more money you're actually losing. And it is no longer viable to store money in a currency of your neighbors, because probably your neighbors have the same problem, which is another trick that actually sparked the conversation between me and Florian. And that's why we're here right now, because what to do when everyone else has the same problem?
basically the main issue with the government printed money, which is fiat money, is the fact that they print and you don't know, as a public, you don't know how much they print, and in this case you don't know the actual real inflation. And basically you don't know how much, you don't know the fact that the money that you have in your bank account is devaluating. Basically, with the devaluation of your money that you store it, you save it in your bank account, this is when you become poorer, because you do not buy assets, because you do not put your money to work for you, because you do not learn trading, you do not read the news, you do not learn market conditions, market capitalization, what means liquidity in a market. So I think it's important to learn these terms and start trading.
Yes, and maybe this is a good time as well. I've seen that there are a few people that might have joined us after the first initial webinars were done. Before I ask you the final question about actually making it happen when it comes to putting money into cryptocurrency long term, I wanted to explore this fact of, you said, market capitalization, liquidity, and just to remind people, basically liquidity, guys, as you may know, this is basically how easy it is for you to sell something or buy something. It's like liquid, like water. Water fills up any cup. It is very, very flexible, and so is any asset that is easily saleable or easily obtainable. And when it comes to market capitalization, it's the fact of how much of something is available out there and how many people are using it. If the adoption rate is low, you might be looking at a higher reward, but also a higher risk, because suddenly you want to sell off the bike that you bought, but in your town, everyone drives a motorbike and not a bike, you know? So
yes, and just to complete what you said, I think it's important to understand the fact that if a project, because we are speaking about crypto, if a certain coin have the total market cap of 1 billion, let's say like this is still a small network. If you have like a coin, like for example, when it was like 600 billion, in this case, definitely have more liquidity because you can sell it easier and the price is higher. And but whenever you start to acquire like at a certain price more at the beginning, you have higher risks and higher rewards as well. So basically there is a balance between high risk, high rewards. It's important to understand, okay, how I can be sure that this network can have scalability, can help a lot of people to have cheaper transactions, higher speed in transaction, the number of transaction per second, or TPS. This you need to look at, and is a limited amount of the cryptocurrencies that will be created historically, or it is an open market, basically like Ethereum. Ethereum is still open, so it's not, you don't know exactly how much is the total supply. And basically with Bitcoin, you know how much is the total supply. Yes, you have low speed and high transaction fee. That's why it's becoming an interbanking system. And it's easier to work because you have low speeds and high transaction fees, but you can transfer bigger amounts. And you can protect yourself because it's not, you don't know the creators. Everything is public, but nobody can say that I own the Bitcoin network.
And at this point, I think it is really important to ask this question then. We're talking about Bitcoin, everyone knows Bitcoin. We're talking about Ethereum, some people may know it. How do we, what are the steps one should take to estimate the potential of growth of a different currency? For example, let's say tomorrow someone approaches me and says, oh, there is this plate coin, you know, and it's amazing, it's entering the market now, take it, you know, invest in it. What should I look at? And what steps should I take to estimate whether or not this is something that has a potential for growth? Or is it just going to be another coin in the sea of coins that are going to be just flowing around and no one actually cares?
Well, first of all, these days, now the market is becoming mature. The crypto market is becoming mature. It's not anymore a Wild West. It's important to understand you should have like a varied portfolio. You should have like a Bitcoin, you should have Ethereum, you should have Polkadot, you should have eGold, you should have other coins that are already in the market. Nowadays, in order for a crypto project to succeed, is very, very difficult. So, and I would recommend to go in the Wild West if you want to become a professional. I would recommend still try some projects, basically, to if you see that the founders team is strong and they have good connections and they want to create something unique to make life easier. But what is important now, what is the utility? So whenever you look at the project, you need to look at from the utility point. How much utility that kind of network have, and for who? Is it that kind of utility, maybe like Filecoin, where you can store your personal data in the blockchain? Maybe you can. So you need to look. You need to look. What is the utility of the project? How good is the founders team? How many kind of groups are supporting the project? Then as well, how strong is a PR team? Because public relations is very important. And as well, like the security features that you have, is it proof of stake? Do they have sharding? Do they have what kind of security measures you have in place? Can you create non-fungible tokens on top of the main network? Do you have a virtual machines that you can build smart contracts? Just giving an example, basically to understand, because a layer 1 network, must have speed, must have low transaction fees, must have high adoption rate in order to consider it. If it's a project at the beginning, this is actually like a lottery. And I would say to try to have some, but do not put your hopes in this project. If you become a professional, you must become a professional trader, and you must understand the market capitalization, live market capitalization, to understand what is the difference. Based on the market capitalization and adoption rate, you can understand if you'll have a return on investment and how many X's you'll have. For example, nowadays, like if for example at the beginning Bitcoin was $300, just give an example. More when I met for the first time Bitcoin, it was about $300, and I didn't realize what is Bitcoin. I didn't understood that at that time, the concept. Basically, it was like science fiction for me. And now look, it was 64, and now it's about 21K. Anyway, but still holding value. As soon we go in time, we go in time, and more people will understand that on the long term, this will be a store of value. On the short term, basically short term can be like 1-2 years. On a short term, basically you have a lot of volatility. You can go 95%, you can go even 100% busted in this space. But you need to understand that the adoption rate, how many people are actually adopting, and do the people using it? Can someone claim that they own this network? In this case, this is a bad sign to invest in that kind of project. Because if someone says that I'm owning, I think a true crypto network must not be owned by a small number of people or the creators.
I mean, yes, and that's exactly why yet again it's then becomes something that is not independent, not a free money in a sense. If someone can click the button and make our money disappear. And I think there was quite a bit of amazing things there here, Florin. And if anything, guys, feel free to rewatch it and take one step at a time and understand it. I don't think there is a point of going into each of those details right now. We're only just getting started. But what I wanted to point out, what Florin said, is it might be good to take the same attitude that you have with all the other assets that we've been talking about, which is whatever you're trying out, make sure that you're not putting the eggs into one basket. So, for example, because Florin is quite sure, and myself, I do believe it's quite a sure choice to have some part in Bitcoin. That might be something a bit less risky, but do not rely on that only. Make sure that you do your own research and maybe add a few others other eggs into, or other baskets to your portfolio, and try it out, see how it goes. And remember, yet again, just to remind you, that unless you're going to be going out of the investment after it went down, you're not actually losing. So as long as you're keeping your assets in, even if another Elon Musk sells another thousands of, it doesn't matter, because you're not putting this for the next week. And if you do, then this is a completely different strategy. And I'm afraid that that's something for a very, very short term, and probably not for us to be exploring right now. This demands much more of the market and understanding to be able to be such a trader that you're going to be taking out the cash in the next week. And we definitely recommend you do your research before you try it out, and then send us a message that you've just sold it all halfway priced. So final thought. Yeah, go on. This
will be the worst decision that you can make, basically, to start having fear, and as well to start having greed. Basically, I think everyone, as a last advice, I think everyone should take into consideration that you should go the opposite the crowd. Yeah, if the crowd is becoming fearful, you should become greedy. If the crowd is becoming greedy, you should become fearful, because then it's a tipping point, and then it's important to start selling.
Yes, so just to reiterate, if you guys remember, we've spoken about this before. If everyone is selling, that's probably the best moment to buy. If everyone is buying, that's probably the best moment to sell. So you might find it counterintuitive. You might find yourself around a lot of people that are going to be screaming that there's chaos on the streets and you should get out as soon as possible. But if you do know that you've not invested all of your belongings into it, you can weather it out. And as we've spoken earlier, make sure that you do it with a reason and a cold feet, and you'll be quite okay. So I think at this point we can give it a little stop, and maybe just a little reminder as well for all of you guys, as we've been talking about crypto in short term and long term. I don't know if you remember, but Florin mentioned different wallets, and there was two special words that were used, the hot and cold wallet. And just to remind you, the cold wallet is the space, the wallet, digital or not, where you store your assets for long and you're not keeping them on any of the platforms. And the hot wallet is the wallet that you keep using. So remember, this is the part of the freedom of money. As long as your Bitcoin or whatever is on the platform that you're trading it on, it's not actually yours, because the platform might go down and suddenly you don't have it. Whereas there are options of either off the, like a device or a code or a website or a server. And these are the options you're looking for if you want to create yourself a cold wallet, onto which we would advise to put the cryptocurrency that you're wanting to hold for later and not touch. Of course, you can always upload them online and trade, but the idea here is that the moment you're taking it off the game, no one can suddenly switch it off for you. And we want to create as much of independence for you as possible.
Yeah, okay. And that's why it's important to understand the freedom of your own money.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, guys, if you would like, I know that some of you might have some difficulties with the microphone, so feel free to put in the questions in the chat. Feel free to turn on your cameras so we see your pretty faces, and let's have a little discussion. I might actually have a question or two once we start thinking about it all, but I kind of feel that it's a good time to start considering how can we use these cryptocurrency ideas for long term. And maybe you've already tried and you would like to share some opinions with us.
So this is a question. So okay, on the long term, I think it's important to understand that you should have a strategy on the long term. Is it if something is going bad, exactly as you said, you don't lose as long as you don't sell. If something is going bad, don't become fearful. Don't start panicking. Change that kind of strategy in a long-term strategy and wait. And because what is going up is going down, what is going down is going up, and it might take more time or less time, depends on the market situation, but it's always like a roller coaster. And it's important to understand, to work on yourself, on your own behaviors. Become fearful when everyone is greedy. Become greedy when everyone is fearful.
Counterintuitive for sure, but it's definitely an important part to notice, guys. Like basically, we're not talking here about get rich quick solutions. So you might as well arm yourself with patience, and that way, whatever is happening on the market, as long as you're not deciding to go with the crowd, you'll be okay. So yeah, do you want to join us, or are we gonna be talking just the two of us? I don't know if you'd like to turn on your cameras. I hope you can hear us.
Yep.
Kuba has a question.
Okay, let's
If
read.
I want to start investing in Bitcoin, how should I get started? Okay.
Okay, firstly, Jakub, I think firstly you should learn what is Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin network? Because they are two different things. And to understand why I am in this game, because it is a game. You need to consider it at this moment not as an investment. You need to consider it as a high risk game. You need to understand the fact that the thing that you want to put on side in Bitcoin, you don't need to rely on that money. If you rely on that money, don't do it. And it's important to understand why I want to do this. I want to do this because I want to learn. I want to do this because nowadays Bitcoin is becoming more like an inflation kind of stability, basically, because you know the total supply that can be generated. And on the long term, this Bitcoin is always growing. If you look on the long term, like on a year plan term on the charts, you always see that the minimum price is always growing. Yes, you have big fluctuation up and down from 64 to 17, from 18 to 22. You have big fluctuation, but on the long term, if you look on the long term graph, on yearly graph, it always going up, because it's becoming more like a store of value. Because if you make into comparison with gold, you have limited amount, and you have the gold standard, which was before in 1960, when President Nixon decided to take out the dollar and not peg it anymore on the gold standard. From that moment, the dollar become a currency. It's not anymore money. Money means having value. Money means something that is limited in supply, and because it's limited in supply, that's why it's a store of value. And on the long term, yes, the price can go up and down, and quite with 80% differences. On you can make 2-3 times exit. For example, last year it was 17K, and then arrive in a couple of months $64K. Is about 4x your money. Now, because we had a lot of influx of dollars on the market, you remember, government starting printing money, the wise people starting buying assets. Whenever you have paper money, try to exchange your paper money with assets that either are a hedge that are against the inflation rate, like gold or Bitcoin, and or you can buy assets like that are producing cash flow. You should have a little bit of everything, and do not exclude anything.
I think I will also add as well, you know, guys, we've talked about the Bitcoin standard. That's definitely a book to read. You can also rewatch the webinar we've done that I was trying to explain how the book worked. It might be a little shortcut for you to understand it a little bit closer, but also feel free to try it out. There are many of there are many of online programs that allow you to try cryptocurrency trading without actually putting any money into it. So maybe research that to try it. You can also just be brave and try it as I did, which is actually to put it in and try. But remember, as Florence said, the most important part here is if you're getting into any of this, you're not placing more than you're willing to lose for the short term, because this might take you a year, 2 years, 10 years to get back. It should just be a lesson rather than a quick fix to get rich, because like if this is the attitude that you want to take on board, then fair enough, but probably you should also find some other webinar series to help you with, because we're not here for that. Any other questions, any thoughts, ideas? I can also you know, after the webinar, I'm happy to have a little chat with either of you that you know, a bit more private in terms of actually taking it in.
Anna, I know that you had some questions.
I didn't. Michael did.
Yeah.
But it's like.
Yeah, but it's totally unrelated to the.
No, you can ask any question. I'm happy to help. Don't worry.
Okay, so the thing is that I was trying to check how many shares the company has, because they went to NASDAQ, and I was wondering how many shares are still available. And I found out it was said that the net income of the company in some currency, I don't remember which, was labeled as, I don't know, few $1 million or whatever. And I was wondering, is there like a set time period to you know, count the net income? Is it like yearly or for 10 years or whatever?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say that so it's an yearly document that you look at the income that you have. But what I want to tell you is the fact that always when a company is going public, don't buy in that moment, in that day, in the first week, in the first 2 weeks, because the price it will become crazy. Basically, everyone is rushing. You remember what I told you earlier? What I told you is the fact that when everyone is is rushing to buy, wait. When everyone because the price is going like very, very fast and up, and then the price is going really down, and it's becoming a crash. Usually the private equity companies, when they take the companies public, this is when they make money. So basically you create the general public, the retail public, starting losing money if you buy the company right at the beginning, basically, because usually what happened in the first 2 weeks, 1 week or 2 weeks, usually the price is going really up, and then like 30%, 50%, even 60% or is going down after that. So I think it will be wiser to wait a little bit to see what is happening, to let the market cool down, and you see the actual value of the stock on the market after that. Because when the situation is becoming heating, usually the retail investors, they run to without understanding what they are doing.
I see. I mean, they went public few or even more than few years ago, so the price per share is more or less the same. For, I don't know, I've looked 3 months back, and it didn't change much in those 3 months. But yeah, I was wondering about this net value thing. Is it like net income? Is it like the last year, or is since they went public?
No, it's calculated on a yearly basis, every year. On a yearly basis, so it's calculated, and based on that is a company valuation, because company valuation is usually a multiple over the revenue. Mm-hmm. You know, the dot-com bubble, when they burst, basically because everyone was rushing to buy shares in different dot-com companies, and everyone was buying so much that it was becoming like a useless, unvaluable, because it was not real. So if you want to find out if the stock is priced correctly, you need to calculate how much is a yearly revenue or sales, basically how much is the total sales in 1 year, and they make a multiple, an industry multiple. So for example, in a certain industry, if the multiple is 5x, it means that you need to multiply the revenue for that year, and that is a company valuation, and you divide that thing on the total number of shares, and you find out if the price that you pay or that you want to pay for the share is the right price or is overvaluated.
where do we find that multiple number? That is really interesting. I need to. Where do we find it? Is there based on the industry you have different?
Yes, we have, based on the industry, you have some industry standards on the multiples. You can do a research on internet in regards to how much is a multiple this year over this industry, and based on that kind of research, you calculate, you multiply with the revenues that the company is having that year, and then you find the valuation. You have two types of valuation: the projected valuation, which is in the future, and the past valuation, which means that based on the historical sales. And one more thing, because we are here and because we are speaking about stocks in connected with cryptocurrencies, I think, the stock market is very well correlated with the crypto market is correlated with the stock market. So whenever the S&P 500 is going up, also the crypto market is going up. When it's going down, the S&P 500, also the crypto market is going down. So it's very well connected. So if you see that is a market crash, usually is coming as well in crypto as well. In that moment, you need to have the cash that is necessary to acquire cheap assets.
Or you need to weather it out if you've acquired it a week earlier. But no, that's really interesting. That's wonderful. If anything, this maybe we can touch upon it a little bit deeper in our final webinar. You've just gave me an idea, Michael, about the actual steps of this yearly revenue and the total number of shares. That is very practical, and that's something that we can exercise, daily if we want to learn a bit more about the market. So
yeah, and because sorry for interrupting you, Wojciech, because we are speaking about market capitalization. This is how market cap is created. So basically, you look at the valuation, but as well, when you look at the valuation, in order to understand the market cap, you calculate the total number of shares or the coins, for example, and you multiply with the value of that coin, and then you understand how much is the total market cap. But in crypto, you have two types of. You have the actual market cap and the total market cap. So basically, the actual market cap it means the fact that how much is actual present value, and the total market cap is. You calculate as well with the coins that are or not already created. So basically, you calculate how much will be the total if all the coin will be in circulation. All the coins will be in circulation.
Versus for example, for Bitcoin, we would calculate it in relation to 21 million.
Yes.
The final.
Yes, basically, and you see that the potential for growth is there, and basically you need always when we speak about capitalization, if you want flexibility, if you are liquidity, always when a company is going public, you will not have liquidity. It means that you'll be stuck with that investment for a long period of time because you might never get back the money that you put in. Because not a lot of people adopted it. You can have capital appreciation, but you might need to wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years.
Okay, and I guess that's the high risk, high reward. That when you go in early, you can get much more access on your reward, but you can also
need to wait longer.
Yes. Wonderful. So before we finish, I wanted to ask also if there is any questions from Jagoda and Maciek on the other line, and Tomek as well. Guys, if you'd like to ask any questions, if you have any thoughts of what has been explored, feel free to pop it in the chat or speak now or forever hold your peace. Otherwise,
for me, it's all clear today. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that, and yeah, it's always interesting to hear what others will ask. So I hope Jacob will have some good questions.
Yeah, the pressure is on. Wonderful. Maciek, Jagoda, any questions whatsoever? Any ideas?
You can unmute yourself, Jagoda, and you can put yourself on video if you want.
Okay, so maybe we'll get a last minute question. Other than that, Kuba, any other thoughts, ideas? We can definitely explore it a bit further, just the two of us, without sharing it with the world, because we are not here to advertise any websites or tools. And yeah, Hania, Michał, anything? It's okay, it's all right. Great, okay. So finally, I guess, thank you very much for coming yet again, guys. This has been a great turn up, and I hope we've given you some ideas and things to mull over. Remember about the Bitcoin standard. I hope you've at least ordered the book. If not, maybe this is the moment to do so. It's only $7.50, I think, on Amazon. So definitely worth it. It's a great investment, and it's going to be out of your 10% for self-education. So that always counts. Remember all those baskets that we've talked about. And other than that, I wanted to just announce that next week, I don't know if Florin will do it on his own, but next week I'll be traveling at the time of our call. So I'm afraid I won't be able to make it. We'll either do a webinar with Florin himself, or we might just postpone it a week. We'll keep you in the loop. Sorry for causing this, but an unexpected travel arrived, and it's literally on the time as we started the call. So
don't worry. I really enjoyed this webinar as well, and I hope I add value to you. And one more thing, as a last word, I would like to say that you need to try, you need to learn before your time is passing by. So as soon as you become wiser, as soon as you become, you actually learn what means real trading. You learn the terms, you learn to work on yourself about the fear and greed. You read the fear and greed index on a daily basis. You read the charts. I think it's important to understand that to understand what is a minimum, what is a maximum, what are the trends, what is going, how much I can wait. And becomes that kind of fearful, not of fearful, of unfearful, to become like that kind of personality that is strong no matter what. You know, in this space you have that kind of expression, diamond hands. So I wish to all of you diamond hands, and I would like Wojtek to ask you to make a photo of the screen and send me that photo, because I really enjoyed it today. And let's say some cheese, because this will be a historical moment. In few,
of course.
Cheers!
Everyone.
Yay!
Nice, wonderful. I'll make sure to send it your way, and also post a little picture for our group. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you, Florin, for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you, Wojtek. Thank you for having me. Thank you to all of you. Take care and have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, Tommy. Bye. Thank you, Joe.